morning everybody. Well, here we are back at the barn, and what we're doing today. So, as you know, we're doing the ZZR 1100 suspension. I'm going to get back onto that project. I have here a C-spanner. I have here a gas key, or a gas bottle key. And the idea is we're going to cut that much of the C-spanner off. We're going to weld that, hopefully 3/8 part of the gas key on, that bit, like that. And then we've basically made a spanner we can use to get into the shocker, because we've got a very small space, so we want to be able to lower the spanner in and then, you know, like a crow's foot. So that's it. That's what we're going to do today. Right, so first thing we're going to do is we're going to cut off the bit of the C-spanner we want to use. So I'm just going to use the battery grinder for that, and yeah, mind your ears. I'd just like to say at this point that that is one bloody tough spanner. Right, next step, cut off the bit of the gas bottle key that we actually want. Now we leave to cool. Right, so something I have just figured out, and I wish I'd done this before, is the square hole I thought was 3/8, which meant a standard socket extension ratchet would fit into that. Well, it doesn't. So I'm a bit annoyed. And it's a thick piece of metal, and like hell I'm going to try and file that out to suit. So I think what we're going to do, this is quite thick and very hard. If I can drill a hole in that and file it out square, that would do the trick for me perfectly. So that's my plan of action. So I think first thing we do is I need to grind this little heel off here. That's not going to help. And then after that, we can take this to the drill, get a hole drilled in it if we can. It is tough, but I do have some drills specifically for very hard metals. And let's see where we go that way. Okay, right, let's get on. Right, as you know, like a nice tool. So I picked this little thing up a couple of days ago. It's 110 volt, rotary, basically a grinder. 2 keys for the chuck, and I can fit something like a flat wheel in. I think they're the same. Yeah, same part number. And what this does is it just replaces the air one. Well, it doesn't replace, it's an addition. I've also got an air one. So this is GD0600, 3.8 amps, 110 volt, 400 watts, 25,000 a minute on the rotation speed. Yeah. Ideal for doing the kind of job I'm going to do next. So let's get you repositioned and take a look. So I've ground the heel out of the C-spanner. Really, I should do this with a grinder, but let's see what odds one of these flat wheels makes. Yeah, we likes that. That's not bad. It's not hot. Let's clean that up quite nicely, actually. Have a quick go on there. Again, not really the tool for the job, but why not play whilst we've got chance? Loads of fun. All right, it's quite slow, but yeah, still, I'm not going to rip myself apart on that now. Right, let's get this in the drill and see what we can do. So before we hit the drill, first thing we need to do is think about this hole. So obviously you can't drill a square hole, and we want to make sure that the drill will take out the minimum, which is just over 9 millimeters, flat to flat. And then we'll have to file out the corners. Obviously the corners will be a larger diameter, that's coming up around 12 mil. So that's the call of the day there we are looking at. Yep, definitely just, I'd say, probably, yeah, 9.6 mil. Right, so we want a 9 mil drill. Cool. First thing, let's get that centre popped in the middle as much as we can, and then go from there. So when you drill in very hard metals like this, there's a tool you can use, a drill, which has a tungsten carbide insert. Okay, and this is very hard, so it will drill through that hard metal. trouble is with tungsten carbide is it's also very brittle. Okay, so I wouldn't use it as a hand drill, but in the machine, that's pretty good. It's going to cut. All right, you know, you can use masonry bits if you re-grind this angle. And in order to grind tungsten carbide, because it's bloody hard, if I remember rightly, you use a green grinding stone, which is a grinding stone for hard metals. But for what we're doing today, this is a purpose-made drill bit. So we're going to have a go with that. And hopefully, if I can hold this in a vise in the drill, we should be able to drill this and not see the drill bit shatter. So let's go and see how good that's going to turn out. Right, we're set up. It's now or never. Let's see how we go. Well, that went quicker than I thought. I'm quite impressed with that. That's the advantage of having the right tools. That drill made short work of it. Just give it all a bit of a clean down. Let's have a look. Yep, that looks really tidy and just in the right place. Let's get that back on the bench. Sorry. So what I am going to do is, now we've got the round hole in there, I'm just going to grind this back edge and top down a little bit to make it just look better. Okay, before I start filing that hole, because that's like going to probably take me all day. The other thing, just so you can see, is our extension. It doesn't drop in. We haven't taken out too much metal, and yeah, I've got quite a lot of work to do. So I'm just going to bung this in a vise and radius some of this off to give me more clearance and just make it look nice. And for that, I think I'm going to use mains power, because try and do it with the battery cordless is just nightmare. Right, let's get set up and get the job done. Yeah, just gives it a bit better profile there. And I don't suppose I can get away with it any longer. We won't get any chatter. Job done. Job done. One crow's foot type spanner. Just needs a bit more dressing up, cleaning up. The reason it's sort of lying odd there is because the spring in the ball bearing is causing that to move. All right, let's get her on the linisher and just tidy her up. Knew I was going to hate this job. Oh, Jesus. Spanner works, I don't. Right, well, it didn't work. The spanner would have worked, but this is too tight. So what I've done is I've dropped out the shocker. I can confirm it is the original Kawasaki shocker. There you go, Kawasaki. And what I've done is I've cleaned up the threads a bit. I've got that trapped in the vise. I'm going to try and put a bar in here and jiggle it round a bit, jiggle it. I think if I can get it moving, I'll be okay. Obviously, you've got the two rings that are locked together. So that's the first sort of port of call. So I'm going to set you up on the bench and we can have a bit of a go. Struggling. Right, so what I am going to do instead is I'm going to clamp the outer O-ring and try and tap the inner O-ring around. That's working. Am I going the wrong way? No, I was going the right way. Yeah, it's just a little bit small on this one. But as you can see, the spanner does actually work. And it'll probably be that bit better on the bigger outer thread. So right, we start to get some movement. Now, I don't know what these are set at as standard, but I would imagine standard is probably about halfway down. And as I said before, it is a little bit heavy for me, the setting on this. So I'm going to carry on bringing this down a little bit. It's all a bit of trial and error. And what we can do now, probably, if we're lucky, So the WD-40 will help clean the grease, or the crap off, and also give those threads a good lubricating, and I can get all the grit and dirt and everything out of it. This is where the C-spanner comes into its own. Yeah, some corrosion in the threads. Let me show you. So you should be able to see sort of discoloration here. Well, that's corrosion in the threads, and what's happened is the aluminium has been eaten away, probably by electrolysis to the steel, and that's why that was so tight, plus the friction of that ring bedding down onto this ring. Okay, so I think a smear of grease as I'm winding that down, or up, but you know what I mean, taking the tension off, will make things better. There you go. Right, let's get a little bit of grease on that. So one of the problems with this C-spanner is it's curved on the inner, and what that means is on these very, very thin sort of nuts, carcellations, it doesn't really bite in very well. So you have to be careful, because that has a tendency to do exactly that. So what we'll do in a while is we'll get the grinder and we'll grind that square with an edge on it. Well, actually we might not, because that could make the spanner a bit too big. Yeah, let's try pushing rather than pulling. So the whole shop is turning, so the only way we can do it is in the vise. So now I've got it started, if I can figure out how to use it, someone gave me this quite flash spanner, and that's got square edges. so much better. So the other thing this bike has is an adjuster here, and if I'm not mistaken that's for your compression preloading, but I only ever adjust one thing unless I really know it's out. So I've sorted the spring. I'm not going to dick with this, I'm going to leave it because I want to see what difference that's made. If I adjust two things, I don't know which one's made the difference, if that makes any sense. So never be too tempted to just start adjusting everything, because you don't know what's made the difference. So as you can see, I've just squared that edge up now. Tool proved to be very good. I think job's done with the tool. Shocker's done, adjusted, cleaned up as much as it needs. I'll get that refitted and then we'll move on with that. Not a bad day's work, that. A really common problem with the ZZR is this top bearing. And the reason is, although it's got a grease nipple in, you can't actually get it because the exhaust sits right in the way. So they very rarely get looked after. And that's the consequence. So what I'm going to have to do is remove this bottom yoke and sort out that bearing. But the other problem is I can only get the bolt that far because it's sitting on the exhaust. And to do this properly, you need to take the exhaust stuff from the front to split it further back here. You can't split it by moving the tailpipe the other way because of all this. So, you know, you can see why people don't do this job. But I'm lucky. I don't need to use this bike, so I can do this properly. The top yoke feels okay. That's good. These two felt good. Just this one. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to drop the exhaust off the back, see if I can get it down far enough to take the bolt out. If you can, you put it in from this side and put the nut on there, and then you won't have this problem anymore. It's just a case of thinking about what you're doing. But that shot needs to be sorted. And that's probably why I've always felt a little bit uncomfortable with the way this bike rides, because you start to get play in all of this lot and it's not nice. So yeah, that's that. So the more I've looked into it, the worse it's got. So what I've got in my hand here now is the bottom pivot that the suspension sits on, swinging arm yokes. And inside this very clean piece of aluminium, very clean now, we have a selection of bearings and bushes and seals. And what's happened is the seals have failed. Water's got into the bearing. The bearings have started to eat into the corroded shafts. Everything's got slop and play in it. It's all bad. It's all come out. Right, we would not want to put that shocker back with all this crap. So all dismantled now, that's cleaned. I'll put in an order for all of these parts and we can get it rebuilt and remounted. Yes, it is a pain in the arse when you find things like this, but it's even more of a pain in the arse when, you know, you hit a corner hard and the whole thing's all over the place because of this lot being wrong and not maintained. So better to get it done. And what we'll be doing is we will be replacing all of this with genuine Kawasaki parts. The bike's got 47,000 on it. Let me think, 47,000, it's 1990, 25 years old, sorry, 99, 25 years old. These parts have done well. Let's have a closer look at these brushes. Is that going to focus? You can see some marks on there. I wish it would focus a bit better. Sorry, folks. And that's just where they've worn. You can see on this one. And this one's just rusted. It's absolutely shot. So this is, as I say, you can see that the seals have gone. That's let water in. No amount of grease is going to make that salvageable. So they are all for the bin.